So I had a question from a lad called Josh. He's based in the northeast of England, and he is teetering on the edge of having to go VAT registered, and now he faces a choice. Does he remain under the threshold, take on no more work, not grow the business, and not register his business for VAT? Or does he go full hog, bite the bullet, grow the business, and charge VAT? Where it comes, irrespective of whether you decide to go for, either fixed rate VAT, which is 12%, so you charge 20% to your customers and then you give the government 12%, or whether you go full VAT registered, where you charge 20% and then you claim 100% of your costs against your VAT. I'm not going to go too much into the weeds on that. But whichever scheme you choose to go on, you have to accept that the bottom line is that you face a choice. If you do go VAT registered, you have to go full hog and grow the business to make it worth it, 100%, because otherwise what's going to happen is you become a tax collector for the government, and whether you pay 12% or 20% for a cleaning company, it's better to grow and outstrip that growth than it is to sort of sit back and just accept 20% losses. So if your plan is to grow and get multiple vehicles, 3, 4, 5 vans, etc., you're going to have to accept that you're going VAT registered. And I have to accept my fair share. I've made mistakes in the past. I have, I'm just waiting for my daughter to come out from dancing. I have to accept that I've made mistakes in the past. So, for example, I was unsure about the impact of VAT on my residential customers, and I decided to have, 2 businesses, whereby my commercial were VAT registered voluntarily, okay, and all the gutter clearing, jet washing, all that sort of stuff for any customers, etc., would go through that business with a separate van, separate equipment, etc., and all that sort of stuff. Fully legitimate company, limited company on one side, and a sole trader operation on the other. Really, what I should have done was merge everything into one, charge VAT 20% on all of the commercial, jet washing, gutter clearing, and gutter facial soffit work, and charge 10% uplift on the houses. Okay, that's what I should have done. But I have to admit, fair's fair, I am only human. I have to admit that I didn't have the bottle to do it. I worried about the impact on my customers, perhaps more than what I should have done. And that's what I decided to do. And in my humble opinion, it was the wrong way to go. So this young lad, Josh, he doesn't have too much in the way of commercials, customers that is. Does a bit of gutter clearing and a few gutter facial soffits, but doesn't really push those jobs. Doesn't currently do pressure washing and has no commercial work whatsoever. And I get it, because sometimes you can think, especially in the early days, that taking on commercial work can seem intimidating. It can seem, like a lot of pressure. And in some cases, you wait a lot longer to get paid. There's no question about it. So, for example, when we did Liverpool Airport, we waited more than 28 days for the payment. But when it came, it was a substantial amount of money and it was worth doing. So it's down to you to manage that and accept that this is not simply a case of turning up, doing the windows and getting paid that day. If that was the case, that'd be amazing. But it doesn't work like that. So, but the advantages to having commercial work is that if you're on the cusp of going VAT registered, you just simply turn round to these businesses and say, listen, we're going VAT registered, so as such, we're going to have to charge 20%. Vast majority of businesses don't really care. They will eat that cost. And it's not really a cost because they claim it back anyway. So I underestimated that. And, the bottom line is that your commercial will help you get over that speed bump, if you like. and there won't be as big a cliff edge as what there would be if you didn't have the big ticket items, the big money coming through. So for example, gutter fascia soffit, jet washing, all that sort of good stuff, you would charge 20% VAT on top of that, as you would normally. And all you would do in some respects for the houses is charge 10% more, but take a 10% hit on those houses, but you'll just do more. So, but again, once you remove the VAT, the glass ceiling is gone. There is no more incentive to stay under the threshold, because irrespective of what you do, you get charged 20%. So you might as well go for the stars. You might as well just sort of, take it to the moon. Because if you don't, ultimately, it's you that's losing out, So if you go £89,999, let's say, turnover, and then, you keep it all for yourself. But as soon as you go to, to £90,000, you lose 20% like that. And so the incentive is if really what you're doing is, if you think you're going to get within the VAT threshold, the advice my accountant gave me was, we know that within the next 3 months, you will exceed that £90,000 turnover regardless. So the thing is, you might as well go balls out. You might as well get as many customers as you can get, charge extra 10% on your houses, etc. And then obviously, go all out for the commercial. And then that kind of, makes the 20% uplift, makes the 20% drop, if you like, in taxes worth doing. So all I would say is that, yes, you may lose customers, but I think in losing the customers that don't want to pay that little bit extra, you will gain far more notoriety from bigger companies. And as we have experienced ourselves in the last sort of 2 years, so sort of like within the last sort of 2 years of going from a sole trader to a sole trader, a limited company VAT registered, to now one limited company which is VAT registered for everything. Having gone on that little journey there, I can kind of say, from going VAT registered to now, we are now starting to attract people to us and businesses to us that we wouldn't otherwise perhaps have got. So if we weren't VAT registered, there's every chance that we wouldn't have got Liverpool John Lennon Airport. We would not have, been invited to quote for universities, colleges. We would not have been invited to quote for care homes that we have. We would not have been invited to do, hospitals and stuff like that. So yes, there is a small drawback of more admin, more uncertainty in the short term, but ultimately going VAT registered shows that you are more of a going concern for these big businesses than simple sole trader. In some respects, it kind of marks you out as a business that wants growth. Because let's be honest, if you didn't want growth and you were quite happy being that one-man band, you could earn your £89,000, what have you, and then go on holiday for 8 weeks and just stay under the threshold. So in going over the threshold and charging VAT, you mark yourself out, and it's not always true, it's not necessarily true, but you mark yourself out as somewhat of a bigger fish for these bigger companies. So it might be something on your radar where you're thinking, well, I would like to do more schools, I would like to do colleges, I would like to do hospitals, I would like the revenue and the money that come with that. But what comes with that is more work, more admin. In some respects, there is more of a reward, in some respects, because you can offset your VAT bill against things like your fuel and your tools and your vehicles. Contractors, so we use a lot of contractors that are VAT registered for things like cladding cleans and stuff like that. So obviously if we're doing a big job like an industrial unit, we will have a VAT registered company come on site, do the cladding first, and then we will come in and clean the windows afterwards. So when it comes to doing bigger jobs like that, sure, we charge VAT, but we also offset that VAT against some of our costs. So it's not as big and scary as what some people make it out to be. And I have to hold my hand up. I was one of those people that sort of was intimidated by it and quite, scared by it, to be honest with you. And perhaps I didn't need to be. But it's all well and good saying that with hindsight. Hindsight is 20/20 vision, as I've always said. And you only know what you know. But knowing now what I didn't back then, I think I would change how I viewed things. So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave the video here. But like I said, seek appropriate advice. I always say this is, it's all well and good getting free advice off FaceAche. It's one thing to watch my videos and see what I've done, but the thing is you have to you can only make these decisions for your business based on your numbers, your input. Your tax expert will probably say something different to me. I can only say what my experiences are. But I would strongly recommend that if you are teetering on the edge of that VAT threshold, go one way or the other. Either go balls out and grow, as we're looking to do, or consolidate what you have, get rid of the low ball customers, take on the best paid work you can get, and consolidate what you have, and you have what you hold, and you stay under that threshold. But understand this is that if you do that, you have to monitor how much money you're earning, because the second you go £1 over that threshold, the government's on you. And here's the thing, without getting too political, I've been accused of being a bit political in the past. Sorry, not sorry. But it's been muted that from some quarters there is talk of, in the future, VAT being charged at 30%. At £30,000, so lowering that threshold down. There is talk of that, and there is also talk that we don't really know what's going to happen. But ultimately, at some point, the VAT law will probably change. Thresholds will change, and you have to be ready for those changes. So I'm going to leave the video here because my youngest daughter is about to walk in, and I shall see you all in the next video. Keep on keeping on.